want to find a reliable source for your Hot Toys and Sideshow collectible figures? If so, modelzone.co.uk is one of the largest UK sellers of Hot Toys and Sideshow, so you can be confident buying from them. Unlike some retailers, they only take pre-orders for stock they have definitely secured and will keep you up to date with the latest release date information. And if the product price increases before launch, you'll still pay the price displayed at the time of your order. Even better, if the product price goes down before launch, you'll pay the lower price. You also get the free track delivery by secure courier, so there's no extra charges. The price you see is the price you pay. At ModelZone, they understand the importance of receiving your collectibles in perfect condition, so they ensure all packaging is perfectly sealed and intact. You're guaranteed a great service at ModelZone from start to finish. Check out Hot Toys and Sideshow Collectibles available to pre-order now at www.modelzone.co.uk. Oh, good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this, our prestigious 6th episode of our illustrious and sharply named podcast, the Hottoycast. The classy and altogether upmarket podcast where you use your ears to listen and learn about all things high-end collectible action figures from the likes of Hot Toys, Enterbay, A3 Toys and Sideshow Collectibles. Every month or so, your host and I will review and discuss all the latest news and releases from those companies that make action figures we could only dream of as kids. Now, if you will, allow me to introduce your most noble hosts and our most illustrious guests. My name is Master Eamon O'Donoghue, also known as Eamon on toy boards.
This is Michael Crawford, also known as Michael Crawford, just about everywhere, and Captain Toys at mwctoys.com.
I'm Master Jeff Parker, also known as Woodstraw on many a toy board.
My name is James Doble, also known as Jack Sparrow across the internet.
And our special guest today is Brant. Brant, sir, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Sure, I'm Brant Bridges from Sideshow Collectables. I'm the office panda, a collector, and I've had the joy of working with the company for a number of years and love to tell tales about it.
Excellent. Well, that's great. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit, about yourself and just give us an overall average view of what your average day at Sideshow Collectables is like. What do you do? And just tell us your average day-to-day from 9 to 5.
Well, I have the luck of kind of wearing a number of hats. So I get to float from the sales and admin side to the design and development end, through the photography and marketing, and just sort of enjoy the creativity from all the different angles at Sideshow.
Is there artwork there ready for you on the table? I mean, would you have to approve certain sculpts, or what's you going on? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wish it started that magically, but that email thing is usually the best way to start. Just sort of take a stock of what's going on in the world, because Sideshow really is an international company, and we're working with, besides our overseas partners on the factory end, artists from South America, Europe, and just about everywhere who are contributing to the overall effort. And then we come together, say 10 a.m. to start reviewing art and talking designs and our plotting and planning and getting into the serious detail of what it is to make the collectible figures and statues that we produce.
I mean,
and that really carries the day. A breakaway for lunch in there.
breakaway for lunch. Mike?
Yeah, could you give us a little background on Sideshow itself, Brant? What spurned them into the high-end collectible market, all those years ago, back before the Universal Monsters license?
Yeah, I mean, great question, great story. Sideshow was born as a sculpting studio doing prototyping work for other companies and kind of doing its own thing in garage kit space. Matt Falls, one of our principal members and partners, great sculptor, phenomenal. And he was doing work for Mattel and Galoob and Hasbro. And the other partners at Sideshow joined on early and said, hey, we can do other things with this. And that's where they started producing resin kits out of the garage and started, mad model parties and just really got grounded and established in kind of straddling the sculpture world and the effects world, because a number of the early creatives came from the world of special effects. And because Sideshow is based in Southern California, we're just a hop, skip, and a dump away from all the best of the effects houses. And so there was always a big exchange of talents and creativity with the guys from Stan Winston's shop and all the others in the neighborhood. So beyond that, Sideshow took on its first licensing. It was doing work, I think, with with CBS mostly to do Rocky and Bullwinkle and Drew Carey and a number of other things, even predating Universal Monsters. But Universal Monsters really helped the company explode, doing the little big head 3-inch figures, and then the 8-inch figures, and ultimately 12-inch figures. And that's when there started to be a strain, because Sideshow, the art was exceeding, and the ambition, retail price points, and couldn't really hold to doing 12-inch figures for Toys R Us and Walmart and Target and things at the time. And Sideshow had to make the jump, and that's when it left the mass market, went into the specialty market, and found a lot more freedom in the expression and sort of desire of what the artists at Sideshow really wanted to do. And that's really been the cornerstone of the company. The product has sort of evolved along with the interests and abilities of the principal creative members of Sideshow, which has brought us up to from 12-inch figures to quarter scale to life size and everything in between.
And I guess that's a good segue to go to our next question, which is you guys have a number of properties that you put out product for. What would you say are your most popular or biggest ones? I guess Star Wars notwithstanding.
I would love to surprise you with my answer, but it's Star Wars, Marvel, and DC Comics, the big three, the whole trinity. And the fans are pretty equally ravenous for all three of those properties, and I think we're pretty equally passionate about them. Beyond that, it really becomes much more fractured with all the video game properties and other movies and comics and TV and film. It's we really try to stay diverse, but Star Wars, Marvel, and DC make up the core.
Now, what would be the main challenges and all that, you think? I mean, it's especially, it's so competitive right there now. What do you find are like the main challenges that you see out there? What are the kind of things like, oh crikey, this is popping up again, or you're running into roadblocks here and there? I mean, what would be your number one bane or headache, pun intended?
Oh, it changes year to year, and I think in Sideshow's early years it was getting access, getting a ticket to the game to go play with Star Wars and Marvel and DC, and just earning a seat at that table. And now it's kind of staying on top of all the different elements that have to come together, both, creative approvals, pricing, and just the creative spark that make the magic, come in. And so it's not that there's one particular challenge that's really killing us. It's just the dance, it's an elegant, high-class problem, I suppose, but just the coordination effort to get all those things to line up is still the challenge.
But there's no like one massive stumbling block that you always find. It's like, is the communication and the relationships good with like the international distributors and manufacturers or any of these kinds of things? Or is there any like there's no like mad language barriers or anything? Something stupid can put a spur in the works or whatever.
I'd love to complain about some of that, but it's just not there. The international audience continues to grow, and especially Europe is huge for Sideshow, and Asia's growing leaps and bounds, and a lot of that's because of the energy in the cinema these days. The Marvel movie slate is just killer, and DC nails it with the Nolan films, and Star Wars with the new promise of more movies. It's just heating up. The factory side's always a challenge, but that's just is what it is. But Sideshow enjoys a freedom that most other companies don't, meaning that we're not tied to guaranteeing $9.99 on a store shelf.
Gotcha.
We float a bit as the tide flows. We're ship out there on the ocean, just riding the currents and enjoying it. But we don't have to strain ourselves as much. We can kind of let the art dictate what the product needs to be, rather than trying to dumb it down to fit a certain price point or anything like that. So, no, I can't really complain to you about any particular challenge. They're there, but we're having fun managing them.
Brilliant. Cool.
Well, I know you're a collector, Brant, and as collectors, we always have something that we would be our ultimate thing to see somebody finally make. What would be your ultimate collectible if somebody would finally make it for you?
Mike, for years I got to say Indiana Jones. That was my dream. There was not enough Indiana Jones in the world, and we've conquered that one. And at this point, I think the last property left untouched that I'm really hungry for well, I should say the next property, not the last, but Blade Runner. Somebody's going to do something with Blade Runner.
I was hoping you would say Blade Runner.
And we keep hearing rumors about new films and who knows what that might make that possible.
What is a stumbling block there, Blade Runner? Because I mean, you're not the first person to say that there's a bit of an issue with trying to get a Blade Runner, because there's a shocking lack of all. Fifth Element still releases merchandise. Lots of movies still release merchandise years ahead after the release. So I'm just wondering what the stumbling block is with Blade Runner. Is it a studio thing? Is it a director's thing? What's the issue there? I wonder.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's hard to even answer that. It's licensing, and it's based on, we're really wonderfully lucky that the studios see the value in merchandising the older films, and it's become such a big program, and all thanks to our buddy George, Star Wars. But those older films they weren't set up to merchandise. That was never really seen as such an important bit. And I understand that Blade Runner, even more than that, just had a whole bunch of complications with number of owners and partners involved. So it seems very unclear, very murky, who really, really has the power to approve merchandising deals.
Yeah, I would bet too that's early enough that they still didn't include like Daryl Hannah and Rutger Hauer and even Harrison Ford in any kind of contractual licensing agreement.
That's right.
So they'd have to go back to you've got a lot of big names there that you'd have to go back to and get.
The deal will come to us and they'll say, okay, we've got it all done, and Daryl Hannah will be the only one who signed on.
Oh, well, a Pris figure would still be all right, wouldn't it?
I would take a Pris figure.
I mean,
I'll take a figure of like the noodle salesman guy.
That's pretty good.
So Brant, the way you guys have a relationship working with Hot Toys these days seems really great. Not only like on your collaborations with Star Wars and other lines right now, but also it seems like the shipping time, like between an Asian release of a figure and a U.S. release of a figure, is getting shorter and shorter. Can you address that? And just
that is the goal.
Any particular reason?
It's a fun partnership. The folks at Hot Toys, we've had the pleasure of working with them for 7 or 8 years now, and just watching their evolution and growth has been astounding. They're killing it creatively and in production, and what they achieve is amazing. We're very proud of the partnership we have with Hot Toys. And it's fun to watch them address the challenges, because as you grow and your collectors become more hungry and vocal and they want more of the product, and you got to address that on a lot of different levels in terms of how you produce the product, how you ship the product, and the timing of all that. So it's something we talk about often and work hard to make sure that no matter where you live, we're trying to get it to you about the same time. But I should probably just go ahead and say thank you to everybody for being a little patient. It's worth the wait on a week or two, but we're trying to eliminate that as best we can.
And as a quick part B to that, is it? I know you guys share the license for Star Wars with Hot Toys, if I'm not mistaken. But I was personally curious about how it works with G.I. Joe. If they talk to Hasbro directly, or if they share that license through you guys because you also have it.
It's a tougher one to answer than a black and white, but we're both involved in those conversations, and it becomes more of a threesome than any one partner talking to licensors. But we have a nice relationship with Hot Toys, and you'll see more and more of this where, Sideshow enjoys the chance to interpret, and we love what we've been able to do with the classic, real American hero side, and Hot Toys loves to interpret and focuses on the movies first and foremost. So it's a neat way to keep it very kind of categorized and help Hasbro and others understand what we're doing. And, I hope that answers.
So it's an action figure menage a trois.
Awesome.
Much more pleasant way of describing it. Yeah.
Well, we know you mentioned Hot Toys there as doing really amazing stuff, and of course, but are there any other companies that you feel yourself that are doing really interesting work at the moment? Obviously go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
I was just saying, obviously, there's guys like the 3A guys, and there's Enterbay and all those dudes coming out as well. How do you?
Oh yeah.
Are there any other companies in particular? Any of those ones you'd like to share a few thoughts about?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned 3A, because what Kim and Ash have accomplished there in terms of stylistic approach and just ballsy development is impressive, and they're good-hearted dudes too. I'm a collector, so I'm a sucker, and I kind of dabble here and there and buy a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Right now, between Figma and Revoltech and very much the Asian influence things. That's sort of what's been stuck in my wallet when Lego doesn't have its lock on it. So, yeah, but there's always something, fun. And I'm more than collecting any specific lines, just enjoy the ingenuity that comes through. And it's almost every company out there has contributed something new in terms of style, approach, design, engineering, joints and articulation. And that's what really excites me these days.
Brilliant.
Brant, Hasbro's been laying off people. Things have been getting really tight. What are the biggest challenges for Sideshow over 2013 and into 2014? What do you see as the things you guys are going to have to overcome to really be able to continue to make the kind of splash you guys do?
I think our issue chiefly is awareness. We have to aspire to levels Hasbro's reached, and we're never, aiming to target mass market the way they've done. But just to continue making folks aware of who we are and what we do, because there's more out there that want Sideshow and Hot Toys and the other products we represent than we reach. So our focus is really on bettering the art and platform of the art to then help us broadcast better and better through, the internet, social media, and all the different ways we can get the message out there. We have a Comic-Con every year in San Diego, California, and enjoy the heck out of it. And it's rewarding because we hear over and over and over again, I've never seen this stuff before. Is this for sale? Is this a museum? And the questions like that are great. We're very proud when we get that kind of reaction, but it's at the same time very frustrating, because it means here's somebody who's a diehard fan enough that they're at Comic-Con. They suffered through the hunt for hotel rooms and tickets and all that, and somehow they still haven't found Sideshow.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to believe.
Yeah. How did you miss that?
So that's it. So you guys can help us. Get the word out.
Hey, I've been trying for 12 years.
And you've done a great job, Mike. Your reviews, your site, it kills it. And that's what, it keeps lifeblood pumping in the veins, and it keeps the core satisfied. And then it's just fun to see how many new eyes keep coming in. It's growing. It might be struggling a bit in the face of competition with video games or whatever it is that you want to attribute that to, or just the changes in production costs and all that. But the adult collector market, that sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? But the collectible market is still growing, and it's still amazing to see the number of folks jumping in.
I'm of the opinion that if enough people are exposed to, there's a local store over here called Marks and Spencer. It's a very kind of upmarket kind of a store, and I'm convinced, like, if we saw a Sideshow collectible, Ultron, or a Sideshow collectible Iron Man bust in any one of these high-end stores, I think people would buy this kind of stuff. Sometimes people don't know that they're geeks until they see something. Do you know that kind of a way?
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said.
So I think that can be the case sometimes, where you can get new converts, and people just aren't aware that you can get these kinds of things. Most, obviously, us geeks have all our nose to the floor, and we've got our nose in forums and everything else. But I just think your average what we in England call punter on the street, if they had seen like a Darth Vader life-size bust in the window of Sears or any of these other big stores, it would get bought up, I think. I just think it's public awareness needs to be a little bit more, and hopefully things like these, like Mike's and these kinds of podcasts can kind of help with awareness and things like that. So, but again, you're kind of preaching to the choir already here with these kinds of podcasts and reviews. It's pushing outside of the geek world that's the kind of like market to be tapping into a little bit, I guess, and to expand somewhat.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, and hopefully Sideshow will be, stable and foundational enough that when the market recovers and all the stores, begin to repopulate, and we see the next recovery kind of launch forward, that will help with that great momentum, and people can walk by, pass through the Marks and Spencers of the other stores in their neighborhood and see Sideshow product on display. For now, we're really grateful for the comic shops and mom and pops that do support us and all the places it goes, and we're just eager to help support them and grow it further.
Excellent. James?
Brant, can you take us through like the sculpting likenesses on figures from like A to Z, and especially I think we're all curious about kind of like actors signing off on their likeness sculpts and what the process with that is.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny too. I would tell you that the biggest change since I started working with Sideshow was about a decade ago now, just to age myself here, is that in the old days we used to have one sculptor do everything, and start to finish they were responsible for the activity. And we've really grown to specialize. And so we'll have kind of a council of master sculptors who kind of part up and decide how to approach the projects. And the digital side of that has changed the game tremendously too, in interesting ways, because it's become a more foundational part in the same way we used to use styrofoam and foam and sort of produce these big forms to then sculpt over. Well, now we'll have a digital sculptor approach that and kind of shape it up, and we'll print miniature versions to test and make sure that we like everything that's going on in the pose and the attitude and the engineering of the piece for production purposes and all of that. So that's been fun to watch, and a lot of our traditional sculptors, the best in the world at clay and wax and all the other mediums, are learning on the digital end, and the whole effort, it's an all ships rise sort of scenario. It's just fun to see how it sparks creativity in different directions. But, sorry, back to the point. When we start a project, they usually get divvied up between a few folks who all do their whack at it. We'll put it back together into a finished sculpture form, share with our friends at the studios. And sometimes the actors have an interest. Johnny Depp, I think, is one of the most well-known sign-offs and tributes to his name.
He's a big old geek himself, though, isn't he? I believe he's a big old geek. I believe he's a big old geek himself, actually, Johnny Depp, because it was actually a story here.
I think you're right.
A friend of mine here over in England is a manager of Forbidden Planet, which is a chain of like comic book stores and like merchandise stores which sell like Sideshow Collectibles, like loads of them. And they actually closed off the store for Johnny Depp and Tim Burton just to geek out to themselves. So that's a certified indicator right there, I think.
That's what we like to hear. I believe it too.
What about Arnie? What's Arnold like?
Right.
He's a fun guy, and he certainly has a staff. I would say is the best way to kind of address him. So Arnie does take an active interest, and his people definitely do too. And it's interesting because he's interested in not just the figure itself, but it's in the past relationship with his political messaging and how that all intertwines. And
right.
Yeah.
Really?
So
nothing too compromising.
Into cigars. Say that again.
Nothing too compromising, I hope. Like you didn't. Nothing that would compromise your integrity in any way, I hope.
No, exactly. Things just like, I'd prefer to be smiling at the moment as opposed to angry.
Right.
I worry
about
the
trickiest approval we ever had to get through. I can't share the talent's name with you, but we couldn't get him to sit down and look at the sculpt to save our lives. And we ended up having to get the product kind of smuggled over to his hairdresser, who then sprung it on him when he had him strapped down to the chair for a session, and getting approval that way. It's a fun game.
Yeah, at least you didn't have Kiefer Sutherland burning your toy like that happened to McFarlane. Hey, you didn't really need this, did you? I set it on fire.
Oh, brutal.
Brant, Sideshow has this terrific reputation for being a great place to work. That's all I've heard for many, many years, and people tend to stay there for a very long time once they get in the door. So what's your favorite aspect of working there?
All lies. I think diversity. We just don't ever get bored. There's too much to work on, and really the comedy at Sideshow is in the battles and choosing over which characters to do first and in which costumes and which ways, and it's never for lack of an opportunity to work on something. And because the characters we do are so different one to the next, what we're solving in the creative engineering production, it's really it takes a lot of thinking and R&D. So yeah, it just never gets dull.
Jeff?
Hi there. Sorry, I've only just come in. I don't know where you are with the questions. It's all very amateurish. But
well, I'll jump in here. A lot of the collectors that you have these days have sort of grown up with the company. You know, it's been a good run here, but we've seen, especially like with the old Universal monsters and some of the earlier license. I was just going through cleaning out my barn the other day, and I came across the Spinal Tap figures. There's just some great stuff from the old days.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever considered revisit? Oh yeah, there's great Spinal Tap figures. I love them. They got the 6-scale guitars were just perfect.
Absolutely. Likewise, the old Young Frankenstein ones doing that.
Oh yes, and the Young Frankenstein ones too. So have you ever considered revisiting any of those early licenses again? Now that the quality of everything has taken off over the last couple of years.
We do. We've added back and forth now again, and what we'd want to do, and especially with Universal Monsters, I think there's just a deep sadness that we don't have Frankenstein in production at all times, as we did. I counted once. I think we've done 104 different versions of Frankenstein or something in that ballpark.
Wow.
All said and done. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is it's so complicated figuring out how to support the company we are today and the collectors at the same time, keep everybody happy. So we do, from time to time, just go ahead and do some indulgences and say, screw it, screw the finances of the project, we just want to do it. We have a couple of those guilty. But I think because we feel some sense of satisfaction that we've been those characters before, we're hungrier to conquer new ground, say things we haven't done yet. And then we stumble back into somebody's shelf or display, look at the old Buffy figures or something, go, ooh, we could do that again.
Yeah.
And take a stab at it.
I think the thing is, obviously, like as you say, your company's moving on, and there are certain licenses, like obviously the Star Wars one, which is kind of like, many people look upon it as like a license to print money, but at the same time, you have to get it right. And I was just wondering, within the kind of like the Star Wars figures that you've been doing, are there any particular ones that you're kind of like, dying to do, but there have been licensing issues? And I'm also wondering, now that obviously the Mouse is in control of the Star Wars license, are there any new negotiations that are going to have to go on there?
And specifically asking about Star Wars, correct? Just fun stuff we want to do with Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize. I missed just a bit.
Sorry. I was just saying it's kind of, obviously it's an ever popular and evergreen license. I was just thinking there are some characters, obviously, that I wonder if you're eager to do, but haven't been able to do because of licensing issues or character likeness issues. And I also wondered if now that Disney are in control of the Star Wars franchise, if that meant there was going to be any new negotiations that had to go on with the company.
I think, great question. We're still waiting for an official formal answer, but we've been through this before in watching how Disney and Marvel tuned up, and they really only meant good things for Sideshow in terms of opportunity. And that's my expectation too with Star Wars, is we're going to see between all the new films and resurgence of interest with newer, younger fans especially, that it's just going to be explosively, catalytically good. And I have no real concerns in that regard whatsoever. Just eager to see the new characters and new stories come to life.
Yes,
absolutely. Absolutely.
As far as the classic stuff, one of the beauties, Lucasfilm has been so comprehensive. I can only think of just the Tonica sisters, where I've heard the hint of any kind of forbidden.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other character off limits. They've done such a great job of keeping it all in the family.
Yeah.
No.
But is it known why the Tonica sisters are a no-go area? It's
pretty in at least insofar as people who collect like the Hasbro stuff.
Yeah.
Know that, I guess. So I guess we can confirm Sideshow will not be doing the Tonica sisters.
Well, I'm hearsay here. So as a Hasbro fan who's bought every Canteen creature ever made, that's my just little hope and desire, and that's where I'm pulling that from. Not from anything we've ever heard. We've never been denied a character that we wanted to do, ever.
Oh, you could break some serious ground with that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So that's why people want this stuff.
I know.
What characters are these? The Who sisters?
There are two chicks in the cantina
It's like
in the
Elon
cantina that
dark hair with
Oh,
serious
the chicks in the
bangs.
cantina! Oh,
Yeah.
right. Oh, yeah. They've never had figures ever, have they? They've had Hasbro
That's the
figures.
No, that's what they're saying. Well, so I wasn't saying that's a problem, but I don't see it as being that big an issue personally, but there we go.
Just
Call yourself
your
a Star
head.
Wars fan.
I would imagine through Brant's career he meets quite a lot of crazy heads and some interesting people and stuff like that. Is there anybody, do you still get like starstruck? Is there anybody that you particularly like, whoa, I just met such and such? Or is there anybody that's still kind of like rockstar socks a little bit?
Oh, my answer's so geeky fanboy, truly, because it's been wonderful. We've hung out with the crew from Lord of the Rings and had drinks with Elijah Wood, and I mean, just could brag and name drop all day. And none of them have really been starstruck moments. I just enjoy them. It's genuinely, we haven't had a bad experience with any celebrity. They're nice people for the most part. But I'll tell you, the one that really floored me was George Lucas. My second or third visit to the ranch, we were unloading prototypes out of the trunk of the car, and I had my hands on something good, delicate, and the flailed one pulled up in the car behind us, parked, got out of his car, and started walking up, and I just wasn't prepared for it. Got me off guard, and I turned around, and there he was, and he just said, and I dropped the prototype.
No.
The trunk of the car. And I had to admit, like, all right, I'm a little starstruck for George Lucas. That's true.
That's a hell of a story. And Mike?
I'm missing the last question. Why don't you grab it, Eamon?
Okay, well, Hot Toys have some high degree of ambition in the 6-inch, or the 1/6 vehicles they have been creating. Do Sideshows have any plans in this department? Is there anything you can share with us on the vehicles front? 1/6 vehicles. Which is...
I think you've seen some evidence that Sideshow does have some ambition that way with our SAP and Battle Droid set, and we've definitely got some irons in the fire on other Star Wars vehicles where, I don't know, particular bikes and speeders might make sense. And we're R&Ding our way through those.
I was going to say, we must only be one short announcement away from a speeder bike, surely. And a trip. Surely.
It is imminent, yeah.
The other, I mean, with the great kind of environments you've been making for like Jabba's Palace, etc. I mean, one thing that I've kind of been really hanging on tenterhooks for, really praying you're going to do is a Millennium Falcon cockpit environment, because that would just be the coolest thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm sure you can't say anything. I'm sure you're just going to say, yeah, that'd be a cool thing, but yeah, that's on my real kind of like lists.
You know, the conversation, the say not the Millennium Falcon, but the X-Wing or a TIE Fighter cockpit. And then you just kind of, at some point, go, why not make the rest of the ship? And that's what gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
The 1/6 Falcon there, that's going to be quite something to see. I mean, it seems like even Hot Toys slightly scared of doing the bat.
Yeah,
So,
well, what is actually happening
Yeah.
with that bat, actually? They're not going ahead with it now, are they? That's just going to be too big, isn't it?
It's been toing and froing, hasn't it? It's all there.
Yeah, and they're doing what, like smaller scale models of them now, of the bigger vehicles, I think, and they're going to start with the bat. That was the last thing I heard.
What do you make of that, Brant? Of that whole the bat there from Hot Toys? Obviously you've seen it, but like, what do you think? I mean, how feasible is something like that? I mean, will people, in your opinion?
Yeah, you're talking exactly the same language we are about the Millennium Falcon and the cockpit. It's just, it becomes a size and production question. Is it feasible to make this piece in a way that folks can afford? And if so, how in the hell are they going to display it?
Yeah.
You know, that wingspan 6+ feet is just insane. Just insane. And showstopper to display these. And then when you really go through what it's going to take for the randomness, hardcore dancing, it just becomes a tough game. But, you know, kudos to them, credit to them for going the mile to think about it, to figure it out. To say, well, we'll try it, and they've done stuff for us to really make the prototype. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I think the small scale one is a safe way of making sure that people get to own something of the net. You know, something that good with that much accuracy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool shit.
No, I was just wondering if we're going to kind of wind these questions up. I thought we'd end, if you're cool with this, on one of those kind of like where I shoot a couple of questions at you, just about what your favourite is. So we'll just rattle through. You've got about 2 seconds to answer these. Now, obviously, this is just for fun. This has nothing to do with
I
favourite license,
just interrupted.
etc.
Just interrupt you
Yeah.
there, Jeff. I actually saw The Master on Friday night.
You saw what, sorry?
The Master on Friday night, and there's literally a lightning round question for this, so we're going to give Brant the Master type question. Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix type style here.
Lightning round.
Lightning round.
All right, lightning round. Let's do it.
Let me kick off.
Yeah.
Luke or hand?
Oh, Luke.
Statue or articulated figure?
Articulated.
Good man.
Yeah? Wine or beer?
Yeah. I got to play.
Sorry, rock, punk, or dance? Music.
Oh.
Ledger
Raver.
or Nicholson?
Oh, Ledger.
Yeah.
And then I'll wind up with the Predator or the Alien.
Predator.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I would answer.
there we go.
I'm
actually,
going all the way.
did we get the Marvel or DC answer?
I'm still
I
going
want
to
is that too political?
DC.
I was going to say, maybe you can't answer it.
Excellent. Well, unless you guys had any other like off the market questions or off the cuff questions for Brant there before we let him go.
I wanted to put the
I'm not
squeeze on him for a minute.
coming in so late.
That's a yes then with three people talking. So, James, what was your question for him?
How much can you tell us about the next Hot Toys Star Wars figures, Brant?
I don't think I can tell you any more than what he's already shared about a certain dreamy young Jedi.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Darkness.
Yeah. No surprises there. No surprises there, James. Jeff.
They pretty much indicated that it's going to be Anakin and Han. So.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Is it on after
that's
Anakin?
great.
Yes.
I believe that's what it's going to be, but who knows? There's a lot of interesting questions to be answered in that. A lot of excitement.
Yeah. Can I just slip one more quick one in, actually? Because obviously one of the things that a lot of people are really looking forward to is when you guys get around to doing the droids. I mean, you've done some droids and some excellent droids, but the droids, as in R2 and 3PO. And obviously we've just had that amazing one released by Jigokin, and it's a little piece of art, but it's very, very expensive. I just wondered, have you actually held it in your hands and had a look at it? I wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, the die-cast in 3PO is a beautiful piece. It's it does have to be held to be appreciated because the weight on the sucker is phenomenal. And the fact that they got the detailing and accuracy on it, plus that die-cast metal, is just incredible. Yeah. But we do have some excitement. Our own design team has been cracking away at the droids for a while. And in fact, you don't have to wait long before you'll see R2-D2. And it is by far the most ambitious, most complex, most equipped R2-D2 that's been done in 6 scale days.
An equipped R2-D2. That
You
sounds
know,
great.
the hairs, I hate to say this, but the hairs at the back of my neck just stood up. And I mean that.
Me too.
Fully equipped R2-D2. There you go. One of my little last questions actually was going to be at the end. Just say for argument's sake, say like the Galactus or like the Dutch statue. How long does that actually take? So obviously I would imagine all these things start off with an initial pencil drawing sketch or a sketch by one of the artists inside. How long does that usually take, or does it vary greatly depending on approval stages and stuff like that? But on your average, how long does it take a statue or figure from like the initial approved prototype stage to being actually in our hands on the shelf? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Mm-hmm. What kind of time frame are we talking there?
Believe it or not, we spend on average a year in the development of a product.
Wow.
And that's design, sculpture, and all the prototyping effort. And then we spend roughly a year in the production effort, making sure sampling is correct and everything is lined up and approved well before we're in the production process. Sometimes those two overlap when we're able to do some of the production and development in the factories, which helps a great deal. And that's very true of our plastic lines because there's almost no other way to finish out prototypes that move and photograph as nicely as they should. And we're looking to shorten that time, especially from the window for people to see product to actually having it in hand. But there's really no way for us to compress the overall development cycle. That's just what it takes to realize one of Sideshow's creations. So 2 years. We live with most of these folks 2 years or more before they're fully delivered.
Excellent.
Cool. And I was just thinking, obviously, like Eamon was saying, there's a lot of development stages. There's a lot of licensor approval. I would imagine sometimes it must get frustrating when you created what you consider to be like an absolutely amazing sculpt or likeness, and to be told, oh no, we don't like that one. Because we all know, we've all kind of, bits have been sneaked out in the past either on Facebook or whatever, and it must be for you as a kind of someone in control of the artistic integrity of your company, so frustrating when something you think is perfect isn't deemed perfect by the company.
Well, I'll tell you though, I think our most critical voices are the internal art team at Sideshow. Our creative director, Tom, does a great job of holding us to a higher standard, and our ambition grows and our talent grows. So what we would have been satisfied with a year ago, today we look at it and say, we can push this further. We can do more with it. Yeah. And we're really not uncomfortable at all in our licensing relationships. We understand one another really well, and there's not so much of a delay there as much as it just to be fully satisfied by the internal team and what we believe the collectors are really going to want. It just takes that time.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was all done there, Brant, but I have one more question for you that just happened to pop into my head. The military line and the Western line, the historical figures, I used to love those things, and it's been quite a while since we've seen much on that front. Any chance you guys might get back into any of that?
Mike, I would love to answer you differently, but it just seems that the core audience that was there for military and old Western stuff has fallen out or moved on to other things. And I don't know how to explain that. I'm not expert enough, but we keep trying and it just doesn't seem to connect enough with the folks. So we're, never say never let it die, guys. So we just sort of start talking about how to pervert it and make it work in our other ways. So that's where
zombie military. There you go.
From and other interesting twists come in, so we can keep our irons in the fire. Yeah,
right. Sounds great. Well, thanks a lot, Brant. I've been a fan of the company for many, many years. You and I have been friends for many years, and I really appreciate the fact that you came on and took the time to talk to us today and give us the background information.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
Brant.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
I think we got a really winner there.
Yes, real pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you very much again, Brant. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Nice to meet y'all. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
Brant.
All right,
okay, cheers.
Looking to find collectible figures at low cost with superior customer service? Fanboy Collectibles is one of the largest retailers of high-end collectibles on the east coast of the USA, carrying a full array of hot toys, Enter-based Sideshow Collectables 3A and all the top manufacturers. Domestic and international packages shipped daily, all fully insured with tracking number and securely packed. Getting it to you as quickly is important, but not as important as your collectibles arriving in pristine condition. Are you looking to pre-order an item to guarantee you don't miss it when it's released? Well, Fanboy Collectibles does that too. If you got a question about an item, give them a call, shoot them an email, or even leave them a message on their Facebook page. Fanboy Collectibles is available full-time to respond to you and to get your items to you as quickly as possible. Anyone can make a sale. Fanboy Collectibles knows the key to being successful is repeat customers. That comes from doing the right thing by you and making customer services their priority. Fanboy Collectibles. For some it's a hobby, to them it's an obsession. Gentlemen, if you could always bid our listeners adieu.
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 Thanks for listening.
Adieu. As always.
There you go. Thank you for allowing us into your ears this day. And as with any high-end action figure, always handled with care.